I remain neutral to the negative, and then I get really excited about the positive. Yeah. And that's how I move. So like there's still the law of rhythm. You're still going to have some contrast. You're still going to have some bad things happen. And when the bad things happen, I just remain neutral to it. I'm like, okay, I'm going to sit on my hands. I'm not going to mess this up even more. The basic is actually the basic. So keep it kind of simple. I mean, what do you do when you wake up? Are you talking to yourself kindly? Are you eating good food? Are you just listening to your body? Are you watching the right things? Like, I would just take it down to basic and then see how messed up you are, and then ask for help. It doesn't really matter, right? It's whatever vehicle you choose to get into, the same material applies. Gratitude always wins in any industry that you want to be in.
World-class lessons from the real estate industry's top 1%. Empowering agents to think bigger and do more to create life by design. Get access to exclusive interviews with top producing real estate professionals. Listen in as we talk about their journey into business, best practices, and lessons learned. Hosted by KIRO, NASRALAH, and John SCIPIONE.
I mean, one thing that we always say in our office is just action is better than perfection, right?
This is Light It Up with Lighthouse Residential.
All right, you guys, welcome back to another episode of Light It Up podcast. We are excited to have with us today Holly Carroll. Here we go now. International luxury realtor in Muskoka, focusing on waterfront properties. She's with the agency. She's former Miss Canada, and she is also author of Selling Secrets You Can't Afford to Miss. How did I do there? Nailed it?
I'd give
Excellent.
you an 8. That was good. Welcome.
Awesome, Holly. Thank you so much for spending some time with us today. We always like to bring guests who bring value to the platform. A lot of our viewers and subscribers are, of course, top producing real estate agents, and we thought that you'd be a great fit for the platform because I know you have a lot to share.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, one thing I'll say is when Holly jumped in, you have a lot of energy that just can come through the screen, and you're not just a normal realtor, you're a conscious realtor, which I'm curious to dive into and understand a little bit more about that too. But before we do, let's get going with these interrogating questions.
So as we prepped you,
Great.
We love to start with our lightning round, totally unrelated to real estate. We're throwing you, not under the bus, but who knows? We'll see where this goes.
All right, go first.
All right, so these are the ones I chose. Holly, how much money do you need to make before it's enough?
It's never enough.
I like that you answered that honestly.
Yeah. A specific answer is a little bit
So many
worrisome.
people would be like,
Money is infinite.
Yes.
It's enough to make my family happy. Good answer. I'm with you.
All right. I'm going to go with this one instead. What's the best excuse you've ever used when getting pulled over for speeding?
I'm heading to a showing.
Did you ever get away with that? He's like double.
She would get away with that. I would get 2 tickets.
Yes.
I don't think I've actually used an excuse. I've just, batted the eyelashes.
And then the guy gets weak on the knees and she hits the gas. It'd be too embarrassing to say that he got played. It's a win-win.
What fear have you outgrown?
Imposter syndrome, fear of being not enough.
I like that.
That's powerful for you to be vulnerable like that off the bat. I like that.
Vulnerability is my superpower. I will tell you that.
That's okay.
But don't let that preface the whole show here.
No. That's powerful. All right, last question before we jump in. What's if you could pick one person to spend the whole day with, dead or alive, who would it be and why?
Matt Leonetti, because he's hilarious. No, but I should probably answer that seriously.
Okay.
Woo!
She wants to spend no time with Matt Leonetti.
My grandmother, because she's passed away, and she was very wise and very blunt. So she'd pretty much tell me yes or no to my decisions that I'm making.
So I'm not going to pretend to know you, but would that be your mother's mother?
Yes.
because I really appreciated your Instagram post. I don't know if that was today or yesterday, but you were posting your mother, and she was doing some pretty funny stuff. And I also appreciated your use of the word maniac. You were like, look at this woman. She's a maniac. If you want to just tell everybody what you were posting.
She's completely insane, and she's like that off and on the camera. She loves to laugh. She's looking for her next laugh, and she is just fabulous, but she's also a complete maniac in a good way. Mm-hmm. But it's definitely where I get it, and she's definitely a good dose of just not taking yourself seriously.
I love that.
Good.
Yeah.
Just to go back on your grandma for a second, you said that she was wise and she would always guide you when you would need something or like advice. What's one piece of wisdom or something that would come from her that you would want to share with everybody?
Use your voice, not your echo, not somebody's echo. So just use your voice. Go with your gut.
Elaborate a little bit more on what you mean.
Just like, if you're faced with a challenge or if you're faced with anything, like don't be afraid to speak up. And, if usually your guts and your intuition's telling you whether or not to go for it or not, or whether or not to speak up or not. She always gave me the courage to at least speak up and apologize later should you get in trouble. But ask for what you want. Yeah.
I feel like that's a grandmother mantra. I feel like my grandmother is a lot like that.
Yeah.
Except she'd probably just be more direct and say, "Don't take any shit."
She was definitely blunt. I've glamorized that a bit, but we can take from her still.
All right, cool. Let's jump right into it.
Go into it. Let's do it.
All right. So, Holly, how does Miss Canada get into real estate?
I've actually always kind of liked the idea of real estate. And I had a lot of people tell me that I should get into real estate. And I was like, no, I'm not going to get in real estate just yet. And I was living in LA at the time. And people were like, why don't you do real estate here? So I actually started my real estate course in Los Angeles, but I didn't have a green card. So I was hoping to get the green card by the time I took the exam. That didn't work out. So I came home and started it here, and it was the best decision I ever made. I feel like everything that I've done before that, so Miss Canada Tourism, international model, all the things that I had done actually led me to real estate, which is crazy.
Yeah. So you ended up coming back to Canada and starting your career there.
Correct.
And have you always been in the area that I'm going to
Muskoka.
Muskoka. Have you always been in Muskoka, focusing on luxury waterfront or?
No, actually, I started my real estate career downtown Toronto in a pretty busy city. And I never really got the plane off the ground for probably many reasons. I was kind of in and out of things and doing a bunch of things at once. I was still modeling. I was doing events. I was partying. I was hanging out in the scene, not really taking it seriously, not really taking myself seriously. And then there was a global pandemic, if we all remember. Yeah. And a lot of people wanted to get out of the city, including me. So I just kind of went out of the city and I came to Muskoka, which is a beautiful place in nature and water and just a place so you can relax and kind of clear your own thoughts. And I thought, I want to be here. And I thought, well, why can't I sell real estate here? And then it was the best decision I ever made because everybody else wanted to do it as well. And at the time, every realtor here was like old and gray and almost out the door. And they didn't have that type of young aggression or hustle or even the marketing that we have as sort of younger adults. So it was a pretty easy takeover. I say that with all humbleness, but
well, especially coming from downtown Toronto, right? You literally are carrying over like a list of people who are trying to escape, the crowded city as well, right?
Yeah, and the beauty of that is that a lot of my clients actually come from the city. So, and I'm selling that type of real estate. So there's obviously still inland, I'm going to call it inland real estate here, like local real estate, but I don't sell the local real estate. I sell the luxury high-end waterfront real estate, which usually comes from people that are actually all over the world. I have LA clients, I have celebrity clients, I have clients from the city. So it's a kind of a different edge of real estate as well. Should I have lived here before, I might know too many people, locals. And it would just be a different type of real estate. So I'm glad I got in that way, even though I was, a little bit frustrated that my plane hadn't got off the ground in the city, but it worked out the way it was supposed to work out.
Yeah. I can appreciate the fact that you have such like an expansive mind in terms of how like certain things you go through, and you're like international, large, expansive. What's a conscious realtor?
A conscious realtor starts with sobriety, by the way, but not just sobriety with substance and alcohol, but sobriety with like the things that you're listening to, the people you're around, the relationships, everything, that the thoughts that you're talking. So what do you think about when you think of the word conscious? You think of awake, you think of aware, you think of like developed, you think of clear. So those types of things are how I want to live my life and how I want to do real estate. So when I think about real estate, traditional real estate is the buyer and the seller, they hate each other. And it's like this competition kind of world. I don't want to live that world. In fact, I want to change the world through real estate and through conscious real estate. That sounds crazy, but it's not. But it's probably for some listeners, or maybe even you guys, like it's hard to hear, but it's the truth. And I know that it's going to work out that way. So I'm more conscious of how the deal is going for the future, for the collective. So I'm conscious of how people are treated. I'm conscious of how people are distreated, because that creates a ripple effect in the world and the next deal and their next deal and how they treat other people.
Yeah.
That's conscious real estate. I just went on a tyrant. I'm sorry.
Is that like how you live your life and now you're applying it to real estate? Or is this
correct?
Is this, your first couple years in the business, you said things are not the right way that they should be, and people are, not handling things the right way? And then that's sort of how you adapted. Talk us through that a little bit.
Yeah, I always wanted to be conscious and a conscious realtor, but I didn't know how that was going to work. To be honest with you, I can say that now because I'm fully in my present conscious now. But when I started, it wasn't like that. It was a competitive business. And I was around a lot of people that were competing and that were aggressive and not really the real estate that I wanted to be. And it almost made me resent real estate a little bit. I'm like, how am I going to find my way here? I really want it to be a little bit different. And I've had some bad deals. I had some, I worked with a lot of not so great real estate agents. Yep. And I also, when I was in the city, I was not a conscious person either. I went through the whole party scene and the whole unconscious scene, meaning numbing and all those types of things. So once I became a conscious person, and the way that I live my life, the way that I say hi to the person in the grocery store, that's exactly how I treat everybody. So it is a whole self of being, and then it just transfers into real estate.
Yeah.
I hope that makes sense.
No, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. A lot of people that we talk to, the part where they grow the most is when they realize they don't have to be someone they think they need to be to succeed.
Yep.
They have to be their true, authentic self. And when they can, embrace that, that's when things change.
Yeah.
Right?
I completely agree.
Well, I think social media distorts a lot
expectations.
of people. And, I think people, like we've said, I think a lot recently, people get their license, then they create this like real estate Instagram account because that's what they think they have to do. And then they sort of try to mold themselves into this like social media realtor without really, it's this weird weird events that occur for no reason.
Yeah.
I totally agree.
We talked to people like Tyler Rittman, who I know now is over at the agency.
I love him.
Tyler was a guest of ours. I used to work with him, but he was a guest of ours on the show, and we dove deep with him about vulnerability and making sure your true self is the person that you're presenting every day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Social can be a pro and a con, right? Because the pro of it is that you'll attract the people who are similar and attracted to your vulnerability. But then if you're constantly consuming, not creating, then
Yes.
you're going to consume other people, like the detox or sobriety, like you're going into, which comes in full circle. It's if you're taking in what you think it needs to be like, then your output isn't going to be you. Can you dive in a little bit more on that? Because I know that there was the stages that you wanted to go through.
Yeah, absolutely. I will admit, I mean, I started trying to be somebody else fully. And
In real estate?
in real estate, absolutely, in real estate. And one of the reasons why I did is because I thought that coming from the modeling world, that people weren't going to take me seriously because a model has this stigma of, you know, maybe being a dumb, ditzy blonde. Like, but the thing is I allowed that to be my belief. So essentially, that was what was holding me back, became my limited belief. Whether or not people were saying that or not, I was living that. So I tried to be this corporate person, and it came out so unauthentic that then I was just killing my own vibe too. So I had to, for one, become self-aware of what was even happening. That's the first step that I had to do. Then I had to do some serious healing of maybe what had happened and maybe the toxic and some of the words that were said to me. I had to do some healing on that. I had to give myself some radical forgiveness, and I almost had to start all over again. I had to love myself, I had to trust myself, and then I just went for it. And then I had a lot of responses from it. So as soon as I figured out who I was and then was unapologetically myself, it worked out. Look at this. And then I attracted people that were actually in my corner anyway. So I wasn't trying to please anybody that didn't like me, because people that were around me were vibing at the same vibe anyway.
Yeah. The only difference is you had the courage to display it, and they're yet to connect with it, to actually like embrace it and go further from there.
Yeah. And I had the belief before I had the courage.
So what was it that just made you, you know, what was the aha moment where you flipped
Well,
the
like I
switch?
said, there was a lot of healing. There was a lot of personal development. There was a lot of that. And it was just like, it's time to step up and to be who I'm supposed to be, you know?
Yeah.
And I gave it a shot. It worked.
I love that.
Yeah.
One of the meditations I was listening to recently, they say take 3 deep breaths, look to your right, and then visualize the best version of yourself, and then step into that role, and then just commit to do the best you can that day as that person would.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's almost like that was your awakening when you were like, that's the best version I've been missing out on. So you started probably quickly running into that.
Yeah. And now I think, I speak, I act, I walk like my highest version of myself. I do that. I drink coffee like a highest version of myself. You know, I don't even think about the past anymore. Like, I think about the end result. Like, what's the end result? Coming onto this podcast. It's like, who do I want to be when I come on this podcast? I want to be the luxury, iconic real estate agent that I am. And that ain't no stretch. But my physical world may not see that or say that, but inside I do, and I have that light. So
And that's powerful.
I like how she cracks herself up at the end of every sentence.
because I just like it's still like a stretch for me too, but the more I say it, it helps.
But it's not a stretch though. It's, you have to say it before you believe it. You know, I used to say I'm going to sell. I sell 200 homes every single year after year, right? And then all of a sudden you're selling 30, and you're like, oh, okay, this year I did 75, and then you're like, wait a second, I did actually sell 200 homes this year.
Yeah. I'll never forget during the pandemic, because I can be very analytical, although I can be deep as well. During the pandemic, I was freaking out in the beginning. I was just like, oh my God, what's going on? And John would be in my apartment every day with me, prospecting. We'd be making calls. He'd be out smaking the things at 7 o'clock, yelling at my neighbors in my building.
Well, this is because we weren't allowed to be in our office.
Yeah. So then I was freaking out the whole time, and I was letting all the negative things consume me. And John was like, this is going to be the best year ever. And he just kept going. And that was, I remember one of the months when we first moved into our office, he looks at me, he's like, yo, I just had a $200,000 a month. I'm like, what? He's like, I've never had a $200,000 a month before in my life. This is incredible. I'm like, wow, that's pretty sick. But it was just constantly living in that moment and just being present and conscious of like not letting any of the news. I was consuming a lot of news and reading a lot of books. And I was just like, no, the end of the world's coming in 2 days. But it's like you're saying, right? It's not thinking about anything that's going on. Just not the past. It's what is in your mind moving forward.
I remain neutral to the negative, and then I get really excited about the positive.
Yeah.
And that's how I move. So like there's still the law of rhythm. You're still going to have some contrast. You're still going to have some bad things happen. And when the bad things happen, I just remain neutral to it. I'm like, okay, I'm going to sit on my hands. I'm not going to mess this up even more. And I'm just going to power through. And I know that on the other side, there's going to be something better because I am an iconic luxury real estate agent.
I love it. But remember, contrast brings clarity. And
Contrast brings clarity.
And there's power there. Now, you need to do me a favor, Holly, because I've always tried to explain feminine energy and masculine energy to John.
Okay.
Now, if you had to coach John through masculine and feminine energy, how would you do so?
So there is masculine and feminine energy in all of us, both men and women. Couple key traits for feminine energy is surrender, letting go, allowing, creating, nurturing. So if you think about it in real estate, you're nurturing the relationship, you're creating the marketing plan, you're letting things fall where they're supposed to fall in place. Then we move to masculine energy. Masculine energy is the action plans, the taking the steps, the aggression. But there's unhealthy and healthy parts of both. So the unhealthy feminine can just not do anything. Oh, the world's going to come to me. I'm in law of attraction. And my man's going to show up on my doorstep. No, he's not. You may have to go outside. And then there's the unhealthy masculine, where it's always doing, that he's not allowing anything and he's missing opportunities that are going by. That's the short and the curly of it. But you had to find the balance in both. Some of the ways to find the balance in both, if you're not so much in your feminine, which most people aren't because we're living in a world where it's like hustle, get up and grind all the time, which actually the rewards are shown easier. So it's like, I can see that. The ways to waken your feminine is to visualize, is to meditate, is to do something creative, is to walk in nature. Those things, again, will find clarity so that you're on the right path as well. Because if you're in your masculine so much, you could just be spinning your wheels and going around and around and around. It's like a duck. I'm going to give you an analogy. It's like a duck. If he only had one leg, he'd get to shore, but he'd be going around, and it would take him a really long time to get there. But if he had two legs, both masculine and feminine, he'd have a nice little swim up to the shore.
I like that analogy. You were losing me there, but when you brought the duck into it,
Okay, good.
I connected.
He's like, are those like turbines or something?
No, I can picture it. The duck. Yeah.
John's the type of person, love him to death, but he'll fall asleep on a Reiki session. If he goes to a meditating class, he'll fall asleep at a meditating class.
I just fall asleep often.
John's high and masculine.
I will actually give John a little bit credit. You're allowed to fall asleep because your subconscious mind is still learning. But I would suggest if you are in your masculine a lot, try to let it a little bit of feminine in. And that doesn't mean
I'm
lipstick.
open to it. Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah. His wife, Verica, had to hit him because he was snoring during the meditation class.
No, I've heard so many good things about TM. Was it Transcendental Meditation?
Yeah.
KIRO's had a lot of success with it. Some of our mentors, there's a lot of celebrities out there that do it.
Yes, of course.
And so I had signed up for a free
intro
whatever
course.
It was. Intro. I don't even know if it was paid or whatever. Intro course. But of course it was at 7:30, 8 o'clock at night. Went there after work.
You picked the time.
I got a comfortable chair and I was, as soon as we had to start meditating, I was out.
Okay.
But I think a lot of these people do say though that when you're learning the meditation process, it's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I would suggest if you do have trouble meditating, we're going way off track here, but if you have trouble meditating, breath work is a lot better because you're actually doing something and it does have the same similar benefits. I have trouble just not thinking too. So you're not alone,
I'm the same,
John.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even when, you're doing like a Tony Robbins session where you're supposed to visualize and, visualize,
Like priming?
priming. Times of joy and, good high points in your life. I'm thinking about them, but I'm also thinking about the people I forgot to call back or,
Of course.
the email that I think just popped up before I went into this priming session.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Based off what you're saying, Holly, it's actually hitting me now. I've went through so many different like self-development exercises and workouts and different things. There was one that stands out, well, two really. One is called Bio-Cybernaut. Have you ever heard of it?
I haven't.
So Tony Robbins recommended it, me being very coachable. I'm just going to say coachable. I signed up right away for it. went to Sedona, Arizona. They put us in a cave for 7 days, did biofeedback and alpha brainwaves training, basically.
Yeah, I've heard of that.
It was self-forgiveness. All of it was self-forgiveness. I had no idea what the hell it was about, but Tony was just like, if you want to level up, go to this event. And I'm like, yes. And then it was all about self-forgiveness. And then there was no masculine energy to make me take action on the things that I needed to. So it actually never healed the wounds until I did something called Landmark Forum, where you had a person on stage like, go make that call right now. Go make that call right now. I'm like, okay.
We'll call your mother, call your father.
Yeah. And I was just like, okay, I'll go make the call. And I'll never forget one of the times they're like, go call your mom and ask her how it was raising 3 kids right now. I'm like, oh God, come on. He's like, do it now. So I that was like a life-changing call. But can you share some of those things and how someone can balance that out?
Yeah, I will say one of the things that just came out while you were talking is that if you have a healthy balance and you're inspired with your action, it's much better than just an action. So if somebody told me to take an action, call somebody, I'd be like, oh, what am I going to say? But if I'm inspired and I have passion and I'm kind of like in my feminine a bit, when I make the masculine call, the action, it's going to be way more powerful. Like if you think about it as like a listing appointment, like if I just go on a listing appointment because someone told me this and I got my notes here and I'm like, oh, hello, I'm Holly. Like that's not going to be as good as if I'm like, I believe in Holly. I believe where Holly's going. Even if this listing appointment doesn't go anywhere, I know that I am powerful because my masculine, my feminine is balanced and I'm going to go in there and I'm going to get it. Like it's just a different energy that you're in when you have a healthy balance between the two.
Yeah. And especially when you're selling luxury real estate, especially waterfront, sometimes these homes, or majority of the times, they're secondary homes for these people. So you almost need to know their needs and wants and be inspired by the real estate to think of the client.
And you have to have compassion too. Like compassion is a feminine trait. You have to have compassion for what they're going through. Because if you don't, you're going to get annoyed.
Yeah. One thing you said, and I know I might be going a little off topic, and this is just, it's a recent wound, so I'm just thinking about it. You were talking about feminine energy is almost like, come to me, everything comes to me. Almost made me think of people playing hard to get, right? How do you transition that? How do you get someone away from that?
The belief of that they're playing hard to get?
No, the feminine energy solely in feminine.
Okay. Yeah, so if someone's too in their feminine and not taking action, well, again, they have an unhealthy balance. I would just ask them, has that feminine energy been working? Have you actually been getting the results that you want? If not, I would suggest that maybe you take a look into, awakening your masculine energy, right? It has to be both. I think I answered that question.
No, I think you did.
No, you did.
Okay.
Yeah. What this has made me just realize is that I'm all action and not
You're all masculine
and not enough compassion. Yeah.
Yeah, well, you could be missing opportunities is what I'm saying. Like you could be missing opportunities because I really feel that we co-create with the universe or whatever you want to call it, God, whatever. I really feel that we co-create. And if you let that force in and if you work with that force, you're going to have a lot more power. For lack of a better word, you're going to have a lot more power. So if you're just in your masculine, you've almost got your head down and you've almost got your blinders on. So you may be missing opportunities, even life opportunities, not necessarily financial opportunities, but you could be missing life opportunities. You could be missing opportunities to help others, which essentially will help you again, because there's an energetic field that goes around and around and around. So it's almost like that book, Slow Down to Speed Up. That's a big masculine and energy balance.
Yeah, and I think too, you're also repelling a lot of people too.
You're repelling a lot of people too.
It's also like we always talk about in our office, the 4 personality styles, right? Everybody's one of the 4 generally, and if a lot of your actions and your how you carry yourself are of just your personality style, you're repelling the other styles. So
yeah,
for sure.
You're not in touch with your feminine and your masculine, then you're repelling the other party.
I will take it even a step further with that. It's like, why are you repelling that? Probably because those other things are wounded. So for me, my breakthrough is that I was too into my masculine, believe it or not. And I wasn't in my feminine. And I realized that it was a mother wound that I had from so long ago where I lost respect for feminine. I lost respect for that feminine quality. So it carried on to my adult life. And I was like, well, how can I be feminine when I don't really respect the feminine? Now, I respect my mother. I respect women. But underlying subconsciously, I had like a wound to that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So you could be repelling that because you may have something that you're not really comfortable from yourself that's coming out.
You didn't see the value in feminine at the moment.
I didn't see the value in it. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So living in something that was the opposite of what you wanted to have is essentially thinking, or it's a false sense of reality, right?
Exactly.
So you going through that sober process, what did you detox from essentially that helped get you that breakthrough?
Like, what do you mean?
So
like,
for
what was I?
So for you, like, I know you were saying earlier, to be conscious about it, you need to detox from things. Well, it doesn't need to be substances. It could be exposure to certain things, like media or whatever the case may be. But then you were living in your masculine so much because that's what you perceived you needed to be because of previous wounds. So what ultimately did you have to like remove in order to open up that way for you to allow your feminine in?
You want to know if she stopped drinking?
I had to stop drinking.
Okay.
I had to remove all of that first. I had to remove the substance. I had to remove the alcohol. I had to remove the toxic boyfriend. I had to remove the toxic people that I had attracted in all of that world, the party scene world, the modeling world, that glamorous high-end world that is not. And we won't go into that too deep. But yes, that was my first step, was to actually literally detox. And then it was the self-awareness of what else do I need to detox? Like, what else is in my world that is toxic? Is it, is it this person? Is it this friend that I've known for so long? Like, maybe they are toxic. I mean, is it social media? Is it whatever? Like, just be a little bit conscious and aware of how you're feeling and how things are making you feel. Getting out of the city was a big deal. Like, or if I've been in the city for too long, get into nature, just get a little bit clarity, get that toxicities out. But yeah, it was actually a full-on detox.
As you're saying, I can imagine it being extremely challenging because as you're pursuing your feminine and you're letting go of those friends, now you're like, am I neglecting them now? As you're getting closer to your feminine, it's like you're confused, right?
Yeah, it's definitely very hard when you first become aware, because it's almost lonely too. And you're almost like, whoa, I don't know if I want to be this aware. I've kind of numbed for so long that now I'm so awake. So it's a lot at first. It really is. But the vulnerability and the bravery and the courage is what makes you a warrior in the end.
I love that. You say it with a smile, which is amazing.
I didn't laugh that time because John's making fun of me.
No.
Wait, what part did he make fun of?
No, I said that she laughs at the end of every statement.
At every declaration.
I do.
You said something a couple times where it's like, and well, you said it twice really. Once in the beginning, talking about your mom never taking something so seriously. Can you just talk about the power of someone not taking life too seriously and actually just being present more than anything else?
Well, I guess that has a lot to do with feminine energy. So we can tie that right in. I think that presence is just easier. So if you're wound up if you're wound up, it's not going to feel good. So if it doesn't feel good, you're essentially going to maybe make yourself sick. You're also going to make bad decisions because they're going to be like gripped decisions. So if you could just stop and relax, again, the universe has your back. So you can take a breath and then move forward with a little bit more clarity. I think.
I'm just seeing such like a relaxed side of you that I'm curious how like wound up you must have been a few years ago.
I was wild. That's for a whole nother show, but I was wild. I'm not afraid to admit it. I had a past life. It was fun. And at the time, it was very glamorized. Nobody really told me how bad it was, but it was bad. Like, there was times where I felt pretty messed up, and alone. And I looked around and I was not living up to my potential. I was talking a lot of game about how I wanted to help a bunch of people. And I was just partying every weekend and hanging out with losers and going down that road. But it was fun at the time, but it's not sustainable.
Talk to us about the book that you had written, Selling Secrets You Can't Afford to Miss. So when did that come into play? Like, when does that fall into the spectrum? Was that I imagine after the detox?
Way after the detox, but it's kind of funny because it does correlate. I wanted to write a book about all of this in detail, and I had no idea how to write a book, but I just started writing, and then I was researching how to write a book, and then I was researching book coaches, and as I was writing, it was actually helping me heal. So the writing modality helped me heal and helped me process all of this stuff. Because like I said, once you became aware first, it's a lot. It's a lot. And you can't just go on a podcast and talk about it because you're still kind of scared about it, right? So during the process, I started writing and it started healing me. The book that I wanted to write is not out yet. And then I decided to just kind of put out this book, which is solely for other realtors and my clients, and actually just to build credibility in myself. So it's a pretty basic book about how to sell a house. But I got into writing because of the healing process and for the vulnerability. So the second book is coming out soon, I hope. I still need to get the courage to put that out, and I'm still writing it. I had a breakthrough this week where I wrote a little bit about it, but that's how I started writing.
There's a book called The Artisan's Way.
Okay, I know the book.
When you're writing and you're just going through, there's like challenges in there too. So you find a lot of creativity when you're writing, and that's in your feminine. So that's almost like hand in hand with everything you just said, which is pretty cool. What's the upcoming book going to be about? The healing process?
Yeah. So it's basically the transformation.
Process. Your accent really comes through when you say process. Yeah, I love it.
I thought you were making fun of me. Sorry.
No.
Oh,
I thought he was too.
John's like, I'm making fun of Holly.
Your Canadian accent comes through. You said
Yeah,
process. I'm
process.
sorry, I derailed you. The healing
That's
process.
okay. It's called Closing Deals and Heals, but I may change the title. But yeah, it is a book where if you pick up and you read it from the beginning to the end, you will have the transformation too. So I think that I talk about sobriety a lot because I think that a lot of people don't. And I think sobriety isn't just for alcoholics or addicts. Sobriety is actually a better conscious way of living. Now, I'm not anti-alcohol, so you can still have a drink if you want to, but I just think that you'd be much happier. I think that a lot of things with that will come without drinking or substance or all of the sobriety things that I talk about. But I had a toxic relationship, and so the whole process is in the new book, but it's basically a journey to network through self-worth.
I have a question. I don't know if they're connected, but if you're not conscious, so for someone who's listening to this and they're like, oh, well, what's this hocus pocus, right? What's some, red flags that if you're not conscious, you would not notice, but hindsight being 20/20, they can reflect on it and realize that there's an opportunity to grow that you can share?
I think it's all in your feeling. So you can ask yourself how you're feeling. Like if you don't feel good about it, that's the first awareness. Like if I feel bad about this, like if I can't sleep, if I can't eat, like the basic stuff, like ask yourself, what is this? You're probably out of alignment with your conscious.
And is there triggers that they can take to get into alignment? I know we were talking about detoxing and stuff like that, but what's some things that they can do? Like some people will do Reiki, right? To feel like they're in alignment with their chakras, right? Some people will do like a meditation retreat to get in alignment. Some people will be spiritual and want to go to a church for, a few hours. What are some things that if you're out of alignment, you can get right back into it rather quickly?
Meditation would be probably the best, or just taking a walk. But I mean, if you're really out of alignment, I would ask for help, and I would get around people that coach and go to retreats. I mean, I would try everything until it works. But the basic is just the basic is actually the basic. So keep it kind of simple. I mean, what do you do when you wake up? Are you talking to yourself kindly? Are you eating good food? Are you just listening to your body? Are you watching the right things? Like I would just take it down to basic and then see how messed up you are and then ask for help. Okay,
that's good.
I say that.
So let's say I wake up in the morning, and so we're early risers, and it's
same. I'm in the 5 a.m. club.
Oh, okay. Well, We're a little weird. We're very close to you in terms of AM club.
You act like we wake up together.
Get up, be active, 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 get up, don't lie down, get up, don't lie down.
No, but
I know, right?
But as weird as it is, like both of us wake up at 4. We used to wake up earlier at weird times. I don't know why we used to do that. But John would be like one of the first people to look at my story, and I'd be one of the first people to look at his sometimes on Instagram, so I know he's up. But when you wake up, you're like dreading life. You're like, ah, damn it, I could snooze. My trigger is to get a cup of coffee and meditate before I work out. But then after that, it's like I'm still pushing through. So are you saying that you can wake up in the morning not feeling like you need to push through?
Whenever I wake up in the morning and I feel like I don't want to get out of bed, I go back to what my last thought was before I went to bed. What did I listen to before I went to bed? How did I think? What did I say? And it changes. So whatever you say to yourself, whatever you listen to, whatever you watch, whatever you read before you go to bed will play in your mind all night. So I sometimes get into a TV show like Yellowstone. If I watch Yellowstone before bed, I'm like, I don't know what happened. I'm in Montana. I'm channeling my inner Beth, and I wake up angry. So it's that simple. I mean, it's not simple, but I do realize this shift if whatever I'm listening to, reading, watching, saying to myself before I go to bed makes a big difference. Now, if you're out of alignment when you get up, I would go straight to gratitude. The best way to get out of a bad feeling is gratitude. If you can't find gratitude, help somebody else immediately. So if you can help somebody else find gratitude, then it'll essentially get your problems off of you, and then you'll probably feel the gratitude from the energy and just helping somebody else.
I got chills with you saying that.
That's a really good suggestion. Yeah.
Can you go deeper on that, because it's a big thing? You just made it seem like it was very simple, but that's huge.
Helping somebody else, what?
Well, the gratitude, and if you can't find it, help somebody else to have gratitude.
Yeah, I think a lot of people say, gratitude, meditation, visualization, it'll change your life. Well, a lot of people have trauma, and it's hard for us to just go right into gratitude. Like I've had that happen, like where I'm like, well, I can't find anything that's grateful, or I can, but I don't feel grateful. Oh yeah, this cup of coffee. Well, I don't really care about this cup of coffee. Like that's true. So it's like, okay, well, how am I really going to find gratitude? If you're having a horrible time trying to find gratitude, try to help somebody else, because again, the universe is on your side. We're supposed to help each other. We're supposed to help each other in this life. And then all of a sudden, your problems you haven't thought about for a second because you're helping somebody else's problems. So that's the easiest way to stop. And then the whole feeling of helping somebody else will set in after that's gone. And it'll just work itself out after that. Because a lot of times it's just that thought that we need to stop rather than let it play out. It's not usually an actual monetizing thing, right? It's probably just like, we make it worse than it is. So if you can stop it with meditation, if you can use it with gratitude, if you can't, help somebody else. And all of those 3 things should get you through to the other side where you can feel better.
I love that. One thing that you said earlier, and it's interesting because John preaches it all the time. You said head down, blinders on, right? And we grew up in a coaching industry where we were taught to embrace the repetitious boredom. When you do the repetitious boredom, those activities so much, you tend to become numb with the feelings, right? Mm-hmm. So robotic in nature, right?
Mechanical.
Mm-hmm. And it's hard to think of anything or feel anything in those moments. So it's extremely hard to have gratitude. But we're in a service industry dealing with crazy people sometimes. You can't really do anything to service them in a nice way or kind way. So that's like, what would you advise to someone dealing with those challenges?
Well, I agree with you. And I've had those challenges where I get robotic and mechanical. And the reason why we do gratitude isn't so that we write it out and see it on the paper. It's the feeling that we're supposed to feel, right? So it's more important to feel gratitude than to say it or mentally. I would just focus on that and be a little bit more aware. I mean, we're all a little bit different. For me, it's hard for me to stop. Again, I live in my masculine energy a lot. I'm still working on this feminine energy situation. I think I've got it, but a lot of times my masculine can take off and I'll be like, oh shoot, why do I feel stressed? I feel like I'm not doing enough. So for me, walking is a really good way because I can't really do too much else. So walking in nature is a huge one for me to kind of snap out of it. And then once I'm a little bit more clear, I can be like, oh, I do kind of feel gratitude. This feels better. So think about what makes you feel good. It's probably different for a lot of people, but try to eliminate the distractions when you try and feel good. I think that helps.
No, that's good. A lot of people recommend doing something that's painful so you're in the present moment, like whether it's a workout, a cold plunge, stuff like that. Because you can't think of anything else when you're freezing colder than your breath.
Yeah.
Then you realize you're alive.
Yeah, and
at the end of it, you're like, this is pretty
nobody
good.
really talks about this, and this could be faux pas, but self-pleasure also gets you out of the present.
I don't know why that flew over my head. I'm like, huh?
I'm sorry, but like if that's a way for you to feel gratitude, then just keep it away from everybody else. But that could help too.
Well, yeah, that's probably something we should go into a little bit further.
Sorry, we're out of time.
All right. Awesome. Well, this is pretty interesting. Yeah. No, but okay, think of it like this, right? If you're promoting someone to think of ways to find gratitude in day-to-day, I think it's good to reflect on the fact that the goal isn't really the destination. It's really almost like the journey, like they talk about.
Process.
Yeah, the process and everything else. John falls in love with the process because he's just like, oh, look at these, look at this. I'm the kind of person that's instant gratification driven. So in that opposite, how do you advise someone who's instant gratification driven to be a little bit more present?
I think that awareness, again, is the biggest thing. But
Conscious, yeah.
In order to get what you want, you have to be on the same frequency of what you want. So let's talk about bringing in the partner of your dreams, okay? So you have to be on the same frequency as him. So basically you have to think about what you want, and then you have to become that. You're not going to become that if you're in a low vibration, if you're feeling bad about your life, if you're not. So I think a lot of people overlook gratitude. They're like, yeah, thankful. I'll be thankful tomorrow. Like, I think they overlook at it and they don't realize how important gratitude actually is. So if you have trouble being grateful, you need to work on that. I would go back and work on that and then come back. Don't be like, oh yeah, I'm just not good at being grateful. I think we need to go back and if you have to watch YouTube videos, if you have to watch Light It Up podcast over and over and over again, my episode, just work on that a little bit more, because that is actually the secret. It's the simple things that are actually the secret. The visualizing and the feeling is the secret to the success. I think people overlook that. So maybe get a little bit more serious about it.
I love that you said that, and I'm sorry for interjecting on this last one.
No, you're good.
There's a book by St. Isaac the Syrian, okay? He talks about gratitude. He said the person with gratitude, the receiver just feels compelled. I'm butchering the words, but essentially it says the person who lives with gratitude, the receiver is excited to give more, right? Basically saying God wants to give more, right? Or the universe wants to give more, however people want to phrase it. So living in gratitude is just another magnet of getting more of that, more than anything else.
Absolutely. And try it. It does work.
What would you
it's
say
not just something we all say.
You're most grateful for?
I am most grateful for being on this podcast.
So she's being present and she's being in the moment. Yeah, all those
I am very,
virtues.
very grateful for this podcast, though.
As you went through your gratitude, let's say this morning or this week, what are some things, if you're open to sharing, that you would say you're most grateful for?
I am very grateful for my awareness. I'm grateful for the women that I've attracted into my life that I get to spend my mornings with. I have a morning mastermind with. I'm grateful for my family. I'm grateful for the relationships that I've curated. I'm grateful for real estate. I'm grateful for the cup of coffee. I'm grateful that I get to live in Muskoka and wake up to the sunrise. I'm grateful for my health. I'm grateful for you guys.
I'm not going to joke. Every time I stare at your hat, so if you're listening to this, Holly's wearing a red hat. And it almost looks like a halo from a distance when my eyes get like little. I'm like, it's a red halo. Like it's just like coffee, like great things. That's awesome. Well,
so I don't know if you've ever noticed, but I always wear a little bit of red for the agency.
I do. I have good marketing.
Well, it's your brand.
Let's hope they don't change their color.
I'll have to change brokerages.
One thing my coach says, in a sea of gray, red stands out. And in a sea of red, green stands out.
So where's your red?
I wear a little bit of pink. Actually, I think I might have.
Cute.
Damn it, no red today. Red's usually my favorite color. Holly, what's something that you want to leave the audience with, share with, pieces of advice, something you're working on?
I think that just to sum it all up, be a little bit more self-aware of where you're going and who you're around and who you want to become.
Beautiful.
I got so much out of this episode, and we really didn't talk about real estate. I love it.
Yeah, I think we talked about it twice. Like 2 seconds.
It doesn't really matter, right? It's whatever vehicle you choose to get into. The same material applies. Gratitude always wins in any industry that you want to be in. So I am a real estate agent, though.
But a conscious
I promise.
realtor.
But a conscious realtor.
So did you coin that term, conscious realtor?
I did. And I love it.
What if that's the title of your book? You don't have to give me.
That's actually, oh my gosh, that's perfect.
You don't have to give me like
10%.
Like you don't have to put my name on the back or in
Do you want to write the forward?
I'll
Write the forward. That's awesome.
I'll write it.
There
you can
you
have
go.
a picture of me in heels.
I will tell you that I've manifested other things on other podcasts. So, John, you actually have to do this now.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay.
You have to make him. You have to make a bet. So if he doesn't do it by an X date,
I'll write the damn forward.
No,
you don't
you-
think I'm going to show up?
Take my word. Make a bet.
And I want you to talk about feminine energy.
By then, I will be more. I'll have more feminine energy.
Aware.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, this took a really cool turn. I'm excited about it. But I'm telling you, Holly, you're gonna want to make a bet because it took him to make a $5,000 bet to sell a house that he was renovating for years. So
I work well under accountability.
yeah, so let's put a $1,000 bet. Holly, when do you
That-
want the
that's
forward
Okay.
to buy?
Deal.
When do you want to buy?
I want it by the end of April.
The end of
Plenty
April.
of time.
Now,
Okay.
don't I need the whole book done for me to write the forward?
Well, forward, you're talking about
I'm
Holly as a
turning this
character
back
and-
on Holly. So Holly, I'm gonna have to have the book done, I guess, by the end of March. Then
That's a good point.
Okay.
So Holly, if you don't do it,
It's almost done.
you have to pay $1,000 by March, and then if you don't do it by
we
April,
could connect her though with. I mean, I don't even know who this person is, but
ChatGPT.
we just had another guy on the podcast who is a realtor who put out a very well-known book. I know KIRO gave him some Haas.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
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 I love it.
And I got a few other authors in the works right now too. So all joking aside, we can certainly make some introductions for you.
Well, I appreciate that. Very grateful for
This
that.
will be the first foreword I've ever written.
Yeah.
But
Yes.
Hit it.
I'm holding you to it.
Okay.
All right, Holly, what's the best way for someone to reach out to you if they want to get in touch?
Instagram at Holly Ann Carroll.
Awesome. Now, when you say international real estate, international luxury real estate and luxury in the waterfront in Muskoka, can you just elaborate a little bit in case somebody has any clients for referrals, anything like that?
Absolutely. I specialize in cottage waterfront properties in Muskoka, but I do connect internationally with luxury waterfront properties. I have a listing right now in Bahamas. So I find myself traveling a lot, and that network and just the energy that I have connects people. And the agency is completely global, so that helps as well.
Love it. Awesome.
Love your energy.
This is an absolute pleasure, Holly. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.
I look forward to reading your forward, honestly.
I look forward to learning how to write a forward.
Hi, my name is John SCIPIONE.
Yeah.
I approve this book.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Awesome, Holly. Thank you so much. That was great.
Yeah.